Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a time and place where the wind howls louder than your thoughts, the land stretches endlessly in all directions, and the idea of personal space involves about 6 horses and a yak. Welcome to the Mongol Empire, where survival means being tough, fast, and usually barefoot. The fire crackles low inside a felt-covered gur, or yurt, and you blink awake, disoriented by the thick scent of horse sweat, burning dung, and boiled mutton. There's no alarm clock, only the guttural commands of a grandmother who sounds like she fought in 3 wars and won them all. Outside, your host family is already saddling up. You, however, are still trying to find your left boot. Good luck with that. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first impression? This isn't some peaceful nomadic commune. This is a finely tuned war machine that just happens to sleep in yurts. Horses outnumber people. Kids practice archery before they lose their baby teeth. You look around and realize you're already behind. Someone hands you a bowl of something that looks like soup, smells like sour cream, and fizzes like soda. It's arag, fermented mare's milk. You try to be polite, but one sip later, your stomach's staging a protest louder than any rebellion Genghis Khan ever faced. You gag, choke, and burp simultaneously. A passing boy of about 8 points at you and laughs. He's holding a small blade and already has better posture than you do. Historians still argue whether the average Mongol actually liked arag or simply tolerated it as a necessary evil, but it was calorie-dense and packed with questionable bacteria. Either way, you're going to have to learn to hold it down because water's not always an option out here. And don't ask for coffee. Seriously, just don't. As you step outside, the wind hits you with a slap of cold air so sharp it feels personal. You stumble across a frozen puddle and immediately fall on your butt. Everyone sees it. No one says a word, but the judgment is louder than thunder. And there's the horses. Oh, the horses, the true rulers of the Mongol world. They're not elegant stallions with glossy manes. They're compact, shaggy beasts with the personalities of grumpy old men and the stamina of Olympic marathoners. One snorts at you like it knows you're not from around here. It's right. You try petting it, it bites you. One quirky fact you didn't see coming: Mongols would sometimes cut a small vein in a horse's neck and drink the blood mixed with milk when resources ran low. Don't worry. They do it gently, and the horse would usually live. But hey, if you faint at the sight of blood, might want to keep that hat pulled low. And that's not even the worst part. You're expected to help herd goats, sweep out dung, and probably milk something by lunchtime. Your fingers, untrained in anything other than keyboards or maybe steering wheels, are about as useless as noodles. And gloves? Who gets gloves? By midday, you're sweaty, frozen, chafed, and mentally Googling how to fast travel to 2025. Sadly, there's no escape menu here. Then you meet the head of the clan. He rides up like a wind god in furs, stares at you, and mutters something in Mongolian that definitely isn't "welcome aboard." He gestures to your soft hands, your awkward gait, your obvious discomfort, and laughs. Not unkindly, but not sympathetically either. It's worth noting the Mongol clan structure is intensely hierarchical, and you, oh brave little time traveler, are right at the bottom, worse than the bottom. really. Your person who needs to be constantly watched so they don't ruin the horses. As evening falls, the cold sharpens. Mongol nights are no joke. Even inside the gur, the wind somehow finds its way in, curling around your ankles like a ghost with chilly hands. You huddled near the fire with a blanket that smells like it once belonged to a wet dog. A child hands you a dried curd snack called arl. It tastes like chalk had a baby with sour cheese. You chew it respectfully. It might be the closest thing to a dessert you'll get. Outside, someone's playing a horsehead fiddle, a morin kur. The sound is haunting, beautiful, and oddly comforting. For a moment, you relax. Then someone sneezes, and the music stops. All eyes turn. Uh-oh. Among Mongols, sneezing during storytelling or music was sometimes considered a bad omen, especially before travel or battle. Whether that's superstition or social cue, no one takes it lightly. You're learning now that living here means every small action carries meaning. You curl up on your mat, stomach rumbling, head spinning, every bone aching like it signed a non-compete clause with comfort. And as you drift into shallow, uneasy sleep, you realize something chilling. Today was just the easy part. Tomorrow, you ride.
You wake to a horse licking your face. That's not a metaphor. A literal, slightly damp, whiskery horse tongue is dragging itself across your cheek, probably because someone thought it was funny to let their pony wander into the gur while you were sleeping. Welcome to the Mongol morning ritual. Wake, wince, and wonder what fresh torment the steppe has in store. You sit up, brush the frost from your eyebrows, and realize the camp is already half-packed. Mongols don't believe in lounging. The nomadic rhythm is relentless, up before the sun, down only when there's nothing else to do. And there's always something else to do. Today you ride. There's no room for nervous pacing or practice laps. Someone hands you a short, sturdy Mongolian horse, a rawhide bridle, and a saddle that looks like it was designed by a medieval chiropractor with a grudge. It's made of wood and iron, no padding, just the essentials. Think of it as the ancient steppe version of a torture bench, except now it's going between your legs. You hoist yourself up with all the grace of a sack of grain. Your thighs are already screaming, and you haven't even moved. The horse does, though. It takes off, casually, like it's bored, and you immediately start bouncing like a malfunctioning jack-in-the-box. And then they all start riding. Not just riding, flying. Mongols gallop as if gravity was a polite suggestion. Kids barely taller than your waist shoot past you while standing on their stirrups, firing arrows backwards at imaginary enemies. One even somersaults off and back on his horse for fun. Meanwhile, you're holding the reins with the same panic you'd reserve for defusing a bomb. Historians still argue whether Mongols trained their horses better or themselves. But what's undeniable is that by the age of 3 or 4, most Mongol children could ride better than most modern adults drive. Your horse, sensing weakness, tests you. It veers to the left, trots sideways, then bolts after a bird. You cling to its neck like a koala mid-heart attack, hearing snorts of laughter around you. It's not bullying, just the Mongol way of saying, "You'll live, maybe." A key detail you'll learn the hard way. Reins aren't held in 2 hands. Mongols typically use just one, freeing the other for bow, sword, or slapping a misbehaving goat. You're instinctively gripping with both, drawing more attention to your city slicker incompetence. The saddle sores form instantly. That hard wooden surface is unforgiving. No foam, no ergonomic design, just pure survival engineering. And Mongols ride for hours. No breaks, no scenic detours, just sheer velocity over the undulating plains. Your legs are jelly by midday. Then comes the archery drill. Someone hands you a composite bow, layers of wood, sinew, and horn all laminated into one elegant death machine. It's curved backward and deceptively small. You try to pull it. Nothing happens. You grunt and tug, but the string barely moves. A young girl, maybe 10, walks over, grabs your arrow, draws the bow smoothly, and lets it fly. It lands square in the chest of a straw dummy 20 yards away. You stare. She shrugs. You consider just lying down and pretending to be part of the step. One quirky fact that blows your mind: Mongols could shoot in any direction, forward, backward, sideways, while galloping. And their arrows weren't just straight shooters. Some had whistles carved into them for psychological warfare. Imagine hundreds of banshee-screaming arrows whizzing toward you. Sweet dreams. They demonstrate this, and it's terrifying. Then you're told to try. You fumble, drop the arrow, and nearly unseat yourself. Your horse, embarrassed by association, trots away and pretends it doesn't know you. At lunch, if you can call it lunch, you sit awkwardly on a rock, your thighs radiating heat, your spine locked in an unnatural curve. Everyone around you is chatting, sharpening blades, fixing gear, and tossing around jokes you don't understand but still feel wounded by. Someone hands you a knife. Not a threat, a sign of inclusion. Mongols share tools. It's one of the first signs you're not a total outsider anymore. Maybe they like laughing at your suffering. Maybe they respect that you haven't burst into tears yet. Or maybe it's just easier to explain why you're still here. But the real test is horse racing. This isn't a friendly bet at the track. This is a full-on, no-rules, sprint across the plains test of skill, guts, and balance. You're put in the apprentice race. You against 2 kids and a man with 1 eye and a scar that probably has its own name. You don't win, obviously. You don't even finish. Halfway through, your saddle slips sideways and you land on your hip like a sack of onions. Everyone cheers, though, not for your performance, but for your attempt. That's something in Mongol culture. Effort matters. If you fall, you get up. If you cry, well, they'll give you space, but they'll remember. By nightfall, you've earned a new respect, not because you're good, but because you're trying. You saddle your horse yourself. You walk with a limp, but still volunteer to gather firewood. Someone even offers you the least sour piece of cheese. Progress. But make no mistake, if tomorrow you can't keep up, no one will slow down for you. In the Mongol world, you ride or you're left behind. By your 3rd sunrise in the Mongol Empire, you've given up any hope that breakfast will include toast, fruit, or anything recognizable from your modern world. You groggily step out of the gare, back aching from your wooden saddle misadventures, only to be handed a wooden bowl of frothy, white liquid. Arag. Again. You try to smile as you sip the fermented mare's milk, but your taste buds are staging a full-blown revolt. It's sour, fizzy, and weirdly warm. It tastes like yogurt that lost its will to live. You manage to get half of it down, nod in thanks, and then immediately regret every decision that led you here. Today's meal isn't just about nutrition, it's about survival. Mongol warriors were built on a steady diet of meat, milk, blood, and curd. Forget carbs and fiber. Out here, it's fat or famine. One mainstream historical fact: Mongol warriors could go for days, eating almost nothing but dried meat,
and drinking animal blood mixed with milk. You, however, are from a generation raised on oat milk and meal delivery apps. The main course this morning? Boiled mutton fat. It's chewy, greasy, and smells like someone lit a candle made of old socks. But it's calorie-dense, and you need every bit of energy you can get. You're starting to understand that this isn't just a quirky cultural cuisine, it's fuel. Pure, fatty fuel for days spent riding across mountains and deserts. Someone tosses you a lump of arul, those rock-hard cheese curds from yesterday. You try gnawing at it, it doesn't give. You try soaking it in arag. It becomes slippery, but still inedible. A nearby child bites through one like it's a marshmallow. You wonder if Mongol teeth are forged in fire. As you sit chewing, or attempting to, a thin man with wild eyes plops down beside you. He's the local cook, apparently, or maybe the butcher. Hard to tell. He speaks fast and gestures to a pot filled with something suspiciously gray and gelatinous. You catch one word, borts. Fringe fact time. Borts is dried meat, usually from a horse, that's pulverized into powder and rehydrated to make soup. That's right, powdered horse. This was the Mongol version of instant noodles. Highly portable, light to carry, and full of protein. You taste it, it's not the worst thing, a little like beef tea with a side of regret. Then comes the real surprise, alcohol for breakfast. It's called arki, distilled from milk. Think of it as Mongol vodka, but made from fermented dairy and a desire to feel nothing. A small sip makes your eyes water. 2 sips and your limbs are warm and wobbly. You now understand why Mongol warriors could sleep under the stars in sub-zero temperatures. They were part yak, part furnace, and part drunk. Historians still argue whether the heavy consumption of arag and arki helped or hindered Mongol stamina in battle. Some say it was just cultural. Others believe it dulled pain, stoked courage, or kept their guts sterile. All you know is that after half a cup, you're seeing double and sweating through your tunic. By midday, you're back on your feet, helping with food prep. Mongols waste nothing. Every part of the animal is used. Organs, blood, hooves. You assist in gutting a sheep. It's a trial by intestine. Your hands are slick, your face is pale, and the locals are watching closely. Not to judge, but to see if you flinch. You do. Twice. But you stick with it. In the process, someone hands you a lump of arul, those rock-hard cheese curds from yesterday. You try gnawing at it. It doesn't give. You try soaking it in arag. It becomes slippery, but still inedible. A nearby child bites through one like it's a marshmallow. You wonder if Mongol teeth are forged in fire. As you sit chewing, or attempting to, a thin man with wild eyes plops down beside you. He's the local cook, apparently, or maybe the butcher. Hard to tell. He speaks fast and gestures to a pot filled with something suspiciously gray and gelatinous. You catch one word, borts. Fringe fact time. Borts is dried meat, usually from a horse, that's pulverized into powder and rehydrated to make soup. That's right, powdered horse. This was the Mongol version of instant noodles. Highly portable, light to carry, and full of protein. You taste it, it's not the worst thing. A little like beef tea with a side of regret. Then comes the real surprise, alcohol for breakfast. It's called arki, distilled from milk. Think of it as Mongol vodka, but made from fermented dairy and a desire to feel nothing. A small sip makes your eyes water. 2 sips, and your limbs are warm and wobbly. You now understand why Mongol warriors could sleep under the stars in sub-zero temperatures. They were part yak, part furnace, and part drunk. Historians still argue whether the heavy consumption of arag and arki helped or hindered Mongol stamina in battle. Some say it was just cultural. Others believe it dulled pain, stoked courage, or kept their guts sterile. All you know is that after half a cup, you're seeing double and sweating through your tunic. By midday, you're back on your feet, helping with food prep. Mongols waste nothing. Every part of the animal is used. Organs, blood, hooves. You assist in gutting a sheep. It's a trial by intestine. Your hands are slick, your face is pale, and the locals are watching closely. Not to judge, but to see if you flinch. You do. Twice. But you stick with it. In the process, someone hands you a sheep's eyeball, deadpan. Protein, he says. You laugh, nervously. He's not joking. You decline. He shrugs and pops it into his mouth, chews, swallows, claps you on the back hard enough to realign your spine. This isn't just a meal, it's an initiation. The clan elder sits you down that evening next to the fire and offers you a leather pouch. Inside is dried blood sausage. You chew it slowly, resisting the urge to ask for ketchup. It's earthy, pungent, and deeply metallic. And then he talks. With slow, deliberate words, and a translator who's about 12 years old, he tells you this food keeps the spirit strong, that meat, milk, and blood are sacred, that wasting a scrap is dishonor, that eating together binds warriors. This isn't just sustenance, it's culture, faith, identity. He shares a quirky tidbit. Genghis Khan himself supposedly preferred simple foods, dried meat, milk, and a bit of tea. While ruling the largest contiguous land empire in the history, he was still perfectly content with meat on a stick. You, on the other hand, just got heartburn from boiled fat. The elder asks you what food you eat in your land. You panic. What do you say? Pizza, smoothies, tofu? You mention rice and beans, safe, neutral. He nods, satisfied, then chuckles and says something about soft belly. You try not to take it personally. Later, someone hands you a warm dumpling filled with meat. It's greasy, heavy, and oddly comforting. A rare treat. You inhale it and smile. For a brief moment, you feel like maybe, just maybe, you can adapt. Until you're told it was made from ferret meat. You nod slowly and sip more arki. Tonight your belly is full, your mind slightly spinning, and your respect for this brutal, brilliant cuisine is growing. You curl up in your fur blanket, whispering apologies to your digestive system. Sleep comes quickly, and with it, dreams of mutton chasing you across an endless field. You survive another day, but barely. Tomorrow, you'll learn how to kill from horseback. You don't wake up so much as you creak into awareness. Your thighs ache like they've personally been offended by your life choices. Your arms are sore from wrestling a sheep intestine yesterday, and your tongue still tastes vaguely like fermented sadness. But there's no time to groan. The morning horn sounds echoing across the steppe, and the whole camp erupts into motion. Today, you're training the Mongol way. Not sparring, not drill practice, not team-building exercises. No, this is full-tilt, no-holds-barred military prep, Mongol style. And guess what? There's no warm-up. You climb onto your stubborn, shaggy horse with muscles that feel like they're made of paper clips and regret. You try to stretch in the saddle, and your back audibly pops. Twice. The warriors around you already have bows slung across their backs and quivers rattling against their hips. They look focused, quiet, unshakable. You, meanwhile, are still figuring out how to sit in the saddle without whimpering. The drill begins. Your first challenge is to ride in formation, at full gallop. No brakes, no lanes, just hooves pounding, dust flying, and your horse deciding it would rather chase a rabbit than follow the group. Mongols ride as one, flowing like a storm cloud across the plain. You're flapping in the wind like a loose scroll. A grizzled soldier rides up next to you and shouts something in Mongolian. It probably means, tighten your knees, or focus, or possibly, you're going to die. Either way, you nod and try to do something helpful. Your saddle creaks, your hips scream, your horse just keeps going. Then the arrows come out. At full speed, riders are twisting sideways, letting arrows fly with casual grace. You're told to shoot backwards while galloping. Backwards while galloping. Your modern brain is short-circuiting. You try to draw an arrow, but it flips out of your hand and bounces into the grass. Oops. You reach for another and accidentally poke your horse in the flank. It surges forward like it's been insulted. Now you're flying. Your limbs pinwheel, your teeth chatter, and your arrow shoots somewhere, probably into the next province. A boy next to you, who's maybe 10, laughs and nails a target while doing a one-handed backbend. Here's the thing. Mongols didn't just practice archery on horseback. They mastered it. Composite bows, strung with animal sinew and horn, were compact but powerful. And because they rode with stirrups and short saddles, they could rise out of the saddle and twist freely. Historians still argue whether this technique was copied from earlier nomadic peoples or refined exclusively under Mongol innovation. But either way, it was devastating. Your arms tremble as you draw the bow again. This time, you manage to fire straight, into the ground 5 feet in front of you. Progress. Later, you're handed a saber. It's surprisingly light, curved, and wickedly sharp. Your instructor demonstrates a fluid swing while circling a target. Then he points at you. You charge at the target, yelling something dramatic like, "Hi-yah!" and wildly swinging your sword. You miss the post entirely, nearly fall off, and end up smacking yourself in the leg. Everyone is too polite to laugh, except the horses. They definitely look amused. Training continues with lasso practice. Mongols were herders before they were conquerors, and their ability to rope an enemy from horseback was legendary. You're handed a rawhide rope and told to catch a goat. A moving goat. You chase it, it jukes, you spin, you tangle the rope around your own arm and trip over a bush. The goat wins. Still, someone gives you a nod. You got closer this time. There's a fringe tidbit here that stuns you. Mongol warriors could sleep while riding. No, seriously, they'd tie themselves to the saddle, nod off, and keep going, sometimes for entire days. You think about that now as your body begs for a nap, but the sun's still up, and there's one final drill, dismount and remount at full gallop. This is not your specialty. The instructor demonstrates. At speed, he swings off the side of his horse, touches the ground, and bounces back on. It's like watching liquid iron move. You, however, leap off and land like a sack of potatoes. You try to remount and end up dragging yourself sideways, flopping over the saddle like a half-cooked fish. Somehow, you survive. And then comes the surprise. The elder warrior beckons and hands you a bow again. The group lines up. You're told you'll do one final pass, gallop, and shoot a target in front of the entire camp. A test, a ritual, a chance for redemption or comic relief. You breathe, you nudge your horse, you rise in the saddle, you draw. The arrow flies. It hits the outer edge of the straw dummy's shoulder. Silence. Then, applause, not because you nailed it, but because you improved. You feel your chest swell. You grin. Your horse farts. Still, a win's a win. As the sun sets, you stagger off your horse like a champion who's also just run 5 marathons in medieval jeans. Your hands are blistered, your legs are jelly, but your spirit? Slightly less crushed than yesterday. Someone slaps you on the back and calls you shoe dog. which you later learn means trousers. It's affectionate. Sort of. You crawl into the jur and collapse, every inch of you pulsing with exhaustion. Your last thought before sleep is a weirdly proud one. You're still here. Barely. The sound of hooves wakes you, again. But this time they aren't galloping across the open plain. They're circling the camp, deliberate and heavy. You peek out of the gur, still bleary-eyed, and spot a group of riders in full battle dress, fur-lined armor, hardened leather plates, swords and sabers gleaming in the morning light. And in the center, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a presence that makes the air feel heavier. Genghis Khan. Okay, technically Temujin, if this is before the rise, or Chinggis Khan, depending on who's translating. But to everyone around you, he is already more than a man. He's thunder on horseback. And today, you're going to meet him. Well, sort of. You're lined up with others, filthy from training, smelling faintly of goat, trying to stand straight despite the fact your knees feel like warm soup. You're told the Khan might address the warriors today. Might. This is where things get tricky. In Mongol culture, hierarchy is rigid, but not pompous. Genghis didn't sit on golden thrones or wear sparkling robes. He wore plain clothes, lived in a yurt, and expected competence, not flattery. But woe to the one who disrespects the order, even by accident. You remember the 3 rules someone muttered to you last night. Don't look him in the eyes, don't speak unless spoken to, don't turn your back. You nod like you've memorized them. You have not. The Khan rides past, his eyes flick toward you for half a second, and you do the worst thing possible. You smile. Historians still argue whether direct eye contact with Genghis was actually punishable by death or just considered deeply inappropriate. What's not debated, that Mongol rulers valued discipline, and showing disrespect, even innocently, could end you. Luckily, you're ignored, barely. A soldier elbows you and whispers, "Do not grin at the Khan unless you want to be turned into jerky." You spend the next hour standing very still, trying not to breathe too loudly. Finally, the Khan speaks. His voice is low, but every syllable carries. He talks about unity, loyalty, honor. You don't catch all of it. Your translator is now just pointing at things and whispering, "Very important," like it's enough. But you understand the tone. The tribe must hold together. Treason is death. Strength is life. And failure is useful only if followed by victory. After the speech, the Khan approaches a warrior who had returned from a scouting mission. The man dismounts, bows, and reports. Then, very suddenly, he's struck across the face. Gasps ripple around you, but no one steps forward. The warrior bows deeper, says nothing, then walks away with blood on his cheek. This is a lesson. Genghis Khan was known for rewarding loyalty and punishing weakness. He built his army on merit, but that merit had to be proven daily. One quirky fact, he often promoted based on skill, not noble birth. But with that trust came ruthless accountability. Later, back in camp, you ask someone what the man did wrong. He failed to notice a hidden pass, could have cost lives, they say simply. The Khan reminded him. Yikes. You reflect on how fragile your own place is here. You're not a warrior, not really. You're a guest at best and a liability at worst. You walk through camp that evening, trying to blend in, but your mismatched clothes, soft hands, and frequent grimacing every time you sit down still mark you as an outsider. That's when you get summoned. A message, the Khan's men want to see you. No explanation. Your stomach drops to your boots. You imagine every possible mistake you've made, the smile, the failed archery, the dropped cheese curd. This is it. Your journey ends as a weird warning tale told around future campfires. But when you arrive, you're brought not to the Khan, but to one of his nokers, his loyal companions. These weren't just bodyguards. They were hand-picked, fiercely loyal men who rose with Genghis from the beginning. They were elite warriors, strategic minds, and extensions of his will. This one, he's missing an ear and speaks in a calm, surgical tone. You rode badly, he says, but you did not quit. You nod. You fell, but you got up. You nod again, more nervously. He tosses you a small token, an iron ring shaped like a falcon, a symbol of vigilance, he says. Don't lose it. You're dismissed. As you walk back, stunned, someone explains this wasn't a punishment, it was a test. Mongols value perseverance. Fall 10 times, rise 11. It's not about perfection. It's about grit, discipline, endurance. Back at the campfire, you're suddenly being handed first servings of meat. Someone pours your arag before their own. You're not just surviving, you're being accepted, slowly, grudgingly, but it's happening. You're beginning to realize the Mongol world isn't cruel for cruelty's sake. It's sharp, efficient, brutal, yes, but with rules, expectations. You'll never be Mongol, but maybe, just maybe, you won't be a complete embarrassment anymore. You fall asleep that night with the iron falcon ring gripped in your hand. You dream of galloping, this time not falling. You reach a modest-looking gur camp, ringed by simple fences made of willow and rope. Several dogs bark at your arrival, large, shaggy Mongolian hounds with yellow eyes and scarred muzzles. A few tethered goats and horses glance up, indifferent. The air smells of dung smoke and sour milk. It's hard to tell who's in charge until an older woman steps out, her cheekbones sharp, her eyes piercing. She doesn't speak at first, just studies you. Then she gestures toward the tent. You duck inside. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of burning animal fat. It's warm, stifling even, but not unpleasant. Dried meat hangs from wooden hooks. A cauldron bubbles over a central hearth. The woman offers you arag, fermented mare's milk, as a welcome. It's sour, frothy, and shockingly strong. You gag, but swallow. Not finishing would be rude, and you know enough to avoid offending Mongol hospitality. At least, you think you do. As you sit cross-legged on the felt-covered floor, a teenage boy pokes his head in. He's barefoot, his tunic patched but tidy. He eyes you suspiciously, then asks, too fast for you to follow, something in Mongolian. The woman replies calmly, but there's tension now. You're not one of them. You're an outsider. Night comes quickly on the steppe. Wind howls outside. The gur shudders, its lattice frame groaning like an old ship. You lay down on a wool blanket, using your rolled cloak as a pillow. There's no privacy. The family sleeps inches away, pressed together for warmth. You shut your eyes, try to sleep. But your stomach churns from the arag. You sweat despite the cold. Something rustles outside, probably a fox, or a thief. You don't dare check. Morning comes, or at least the sky turns a little less black. The family is already moving, busy with chores, milking goats, mending gear, cooking. You try to help, but you're clumsy with the tools. You trip over a rope line. The old woman gently moves you aside, murmuring something that might be useless in a soothing tone. You decide to explore outside, hoping to be useful elsewhere. A few men are loading bundles onto pack animals, preparing to move. Nomadic life means constant mobility. There are no cities here, no rooted homes. The landscape is the only constant, and it is forever shifting. You're handed a task: carry dung. It's used as fuel, dry, crusty chunks of yak droppings piled into baskets. You gag at first, but it's less revolting than you'd feared. It's part of life here. Every scrap is useful. The work is relentless. The wind never stops. The cold sinks into your bones. Your lips crack. Your fingertips go numb. There are no gloves, no warm baths, no time to sit and daydream. A man offers you food, flatbread and boiled mutton. It's greasy, chewy, tough, but it fills your stomach. You smile in thanks, and he nods, silent. You learn quickly that talking is reserved for necessity, no idle chatter. Life is about survival. Even laughter, when it comes, feels sharp-edged, earned in the margins between storms and raids and sickness. Later, you ride with a small group sent to check on neighboring camps. Your thighs burn. You bounce awkwardly in the saddle. One of the younger riders laughs at your struggle, then shows you a better way to sit, low, relaxed, letting the horse move beneath you like a river's current. You improve slowly, and that tiny nod of approval from him feels like a medal. That night the stars come out. No city lights, just the Milky Way sprawled across the sky like a white wound. A small fire crackles. You sit huddled with the others. A man plays a Morin-Cour horsehead fiddle, its haunting notes rising and falling like the wind itself. There's beauty here. Stark, cold, raw beauty. But you're exhausted. Every part of your body aches. Your skin itches from dust and sweat and wool. Your breath smells of meat and sour milk. You've had no proper bath, no real privacy. You haven't seen a book, a mirror, or even a tree in days. And winter is just beginning. Still, a strange shift begins to happen in your chest, something between awe and fear. These people, tough, reserved, and endlessly mobile, don't just survive here. They thrive, they endure. You realize you wouldn't last, not because you're weak, but because their way of life is so utterly alien. Their strength is forged by the land, by the endless horizon, by the knowledge that no fortress, no kingdom, no emperor is eternal, but the wind is, and they ride with it. You fall asleep to the sound of hooves fading in the distance, and dawn brings a new trial. You awaken with a start. A shout echoes outside the gur, not alarm, but urgency. You stumble out into the biting cold, breath smoking in the pre-dawn air. Riders are already mounted, bows slung over their backs. Something's happening. A scout has returned, his horse lathered in sweat, flanks heaving. A rival band of nomads has been sighted across the valley, too close for comfort. You're not yet sure if they're enemies or kin, but it doesn't matter. Here, close rarely means friendly. The Mongol response is swift, automatic, prepare to move, or prepare to fight. You're handed a job, gather the sheep. You have no experience herding, but there's no time to argue. A child barely 10 years old shows you how to circle wide, how to whistle low, how to use a coiled rope to steer stragglers. The sheep are stubborn. You trip over stones, your hands bleed, but somehow the flock moves. Within an hour, the entire camp is packed up. The gurs have vanished as if they were never there, reduced to neat bundles on the backs of oxen and camels. Even the fire pits are buried to hide the signs of habitation. The steppe reveals nothing, and that's the point. You ride again, hunched low to block the wind. This time it's not a calm patrol, it's migration under threat. Everyone moves in silence, eyes scanning the horizon. Hawks cry above. The wind shifts. The world feels tense, like it's holding its breath. Eventually, the scouts report back. The other band has moved off. No danger, not today. But that doesn't slow the pace. The Mongols are always moving, not out of fear, but as a way of life. Their horses are bred for endurance, not speed. Their saddles are hard, their gear minimal. Their lives are optimized for motion. Yours is not. By evening, the new camp is set. Water is fetched, fires lit, meat sliced thin and thrown onto hot stones. You're invited to eat again, but this time you hesitate. You're hungry, ravenous even, but you've learned something since your first night. Hospitality here is sacred, but limited. A guest is treated well, but not endlessly. Usefulness matters. You have to contribute, earn your keep. So instead of sitting by the hearth, you help unload supplies. You chop wood with a dull axe. You sweep dung away from the cooking area. Small tasks, but noticed. That night the chieftain returns, an older man with a broad face and leathered skin. He's not regal. He doesn't need to be. His strength lies in experience. He's seen winters break men, plagues devour camps, empires rise and fall. He glances at you. No greeting, just a nod. It's enough. A feast begins, though it's not what you imagined. No gold, no goblets, no dancers, just boiled meat, thick broth, and hard bread. But there's laughter now. A few stories, a drinking contest that ends with one man vomiting spectacularly into the snow. You're offered arki, distilled milk liquor. It's brutal, burns all the way down. But you take a second sip. You think you're adjusting. Until the chieftain begins to test you. It starts with a question through a translator. Do you know how to kill a man from horseback? You shake your head. He smiles. Then another. Can you shoot standing on a galloping horse? You laugh, assuming it's rhetorical. He doesn't laugh back. Suddenly, you're back outside. A small bow is shoved into your hands. It's stiff, heavy, harder to draw than you expected. You're shown how to brace it, how to draw from the right, Mongol style, thumb hooked around the string, not fingers. It's awkward. Then you're on a pony. Someone slaps its flank. You lurch forward, barely hanging on. You don't fall, but it's close. A boy rides beside you, not more than 12. He looses 3 arrows before you manage one, and yours thuds into the dirt. He smirks. No one mocks you, but no one praises you either. You're not expected to be skilled, but you are expected to try, to learn, to survive. That night, your hands tremble from strain. Your thighs ache. You realize that these people, hardened from childhood, aren't warriors by chance. They're bred by necessity. Every game, every ride, every errand is practice for conquest. You think back to your own life, soft, sedentary, screen-filled. You think of gyms and protein shakes and padded gloves. Here, strength isn't curated. It's constant. Even the children here could outride you, outshoot you, outlast you. You don't belong, and they know it. But still, they let you stay. Because maybe, just maybe, you're beginning to understand. And tomorrow, they might teach you to hunt. Or to kill. You wake before sunrise, the sky a smear of indigo and frost. Your joints are stiff, your lips cracked and raw. There's no warm breakfast waiting, no idle scrolling to ease you into the day, just a slap of cold air and the sound of hooves in motion. The herders are already on the move. You're expected to follow. Today is a hunting day. Not for survival this time, there's food enough, but for skill. Mongols hunt not just to eat, but to stay sharp. Hunting is training. Every gallop, every bow shot, every blood-spattered skinning helps prepare for something far more serious, war. You mount your horse, grateful it remembers the motions better than you do. The saddle's wooden frame bruises your thighs. Your legs feel like they're constantly being wrenched apart, but you stay on. The group rides in a crescent formation, spreading slowly across the plains. You're told to watch for marmots, foxes, antelope, anything that moves. The men carry long bows, some with steel-tip arrows, others barbed. The children have shorter ones, but they ride just as fast. Everyone's quiet, no banter, no boasting. Suddenly, a shout. Riders swerve. A flash of fur darts through the grass. The chase is on. You urge your horse forward, heart pounding. The fox is fast, impossibly fast and clever. It zigzags, dives between rocks, doubles back. The hunters adapt instantly, cornering it with fluid, rehearsed precision. One rider looses an arrow mid-gallop. Clean shot. The fox tumbles, still. You reach the kill moments later, breathless. There's no celebration, no applause, just swift efficiency. The animal is skinned, gutted, and bundled in silence. Every part will be used: meat, pelt, sinew, nothing wasted. You try not to look away, try not to flinch, but your stomach turns. Not at the blood, but at the calm, the sheer normality of death here. It isn't cruel, it's simply life. Later, you're given a chance. A lone marmot darts from its burrow. You fumble your bow, nearly drop it. Your arrow sails wide. The marmot vanishes. No one laughs, but one man offers a quiet correction in broken words. Wait, breathe, pull soft. Another boy demonstrates, slower this time. You nod, try again, miss again. But you're learning. By afternoon, the sun burns away the frost. The riders relax slightly, peeling off layers, chatting in low tones. You sit with them, eating dried curd and salted meat. The language barrier still holds, but you sense a shift. You're no longer a guest. You're an outsider trying to become something more. That earns you a kind of cautious respect. Then the talk turns to conquest. You don't catch every word, but certain names pierce through. Khitans, Jurchens, Tangits, Rus. The Mongol world is expanding, always expanding. This is no isolated tribe. This is a storm gathering force. Genghis Khan has united clans that once slaughtered each other on sight. Now they look outward, hungry. One man draws a map in the dirt, rivers, cities, walls. He scowls, spits on a distant corner. Zhongdu, someone mutters. You recognize the name. The Jin dynasty's capital, present-day Beijing. They speak of walls with disgust. Walls mean resistance. Walls mean targets. You try to imagine what that would look like. Mongols storming a city of stone and towers and silk-draped nobles. The image makes your spine tingle. And then you realize they've already done it. They've already done it. You wonder what happens to the people inside. Later that evening, as the camp settles and the animals are tied, a wrestling match begins. It's not organized, just two men circling each other in the dirt, bare-chested despite the chill. No pinfall, no submission. The goal is simple. Force your opponent to the ground. Strength and technique. No prizes, just honor. You're urged to try. At first, you refuse. They insist, grinning, not mocking. It's not about victory, it's about willingness. You step forward, heart pounding. Your opponent is young, wiry, maybe lighter than you. That's the trap. He's quicker and trained from boyhood. You lunge. He twists. You're in the dirt within seconds, face first, breath knocked out of you. Laughter erupts, not cruel, but real. You sit up, dizzy and grinning despite yourself. You lost, but you showed up. That matters here. Afterwards, someone hands you a bowl of soup, goat meat, onions, and something you don't recognize. You don't ask, you eat. It warms your belly and your bones. That night, lying under a sky so wide it swallows thought, you wonder how different you really are from them. You grew up with comfort, they with hardship. You knew rules, they knew instincts. But there's something else too. something raw and vital you never touched until now. A part of you wants to belong, but you know better. This life, this wind-lashed, blood-warmed, dust-choked life isn't built for tourists. It forges people over decades, not days. You're surviving, yes, but you're not thriving. Not yet. And winter is still coming. Morning again. It never feels gentle here. The wind doesn't knock, it barges in. Your cloak is stiff with dust and dried sweat. Your back aches. Your mouth tastes of smoke and horse. And before you can shake the sleep from your eyes, someone is already barking orders. You're riding north today, toward a larger encampment where multiple clans are gathering. You don't ask why, you've learned not to. The Mongols don't explain everything, especially not to outsiders. If you're included, that's reason enough. So you pack up, tie your few things into a bundle, and mount your pony. The day's ride is long, across unfamiliar hills and frozen rivers. You pass a band of traders from the west, small men in strange hats pulling carts loaded with fine cloth and bronze bells. The Mongols don't seem impressed. Silk can't feed you. Bells can't save your life in a blizzard. Later, you see smoke columns rising in the distance. Not fire, not war. Camps. Dozens of them. The main encampment sprawls across the plain like a temporary city. Hundreds of gurs, all arranged in rings. Inner circle for leaders, outer rings for soldiers, craftsmen, animal herders. You've never seen so many horses. They cover the hills like wind-stirred grass, snorting and restless. You've arrived at something bigger than a village. This is a war council. Drums sound through the chill. Warriors arrive in groups, some shirtless despite the cold, muscles painted with black ash or grease. Banners flap above their heads, painted with wolves, hawks, and flaming wheels. You feel utterly, completely small. In the center stands a tent larger than any you've seen. Its poles are capped with silver, and armed guards stand at its entrance. The Khan isn't here, not yet, but his commanders are. You recognize some of them from stories told by the fire. One-eyed, scarred, silent men whose names are spoken with the same tone you'd use for thunder or plague. Someone pulls you aside before you wander too close. You're told to observe, but never interrupt. You're a witness, not a participant. So you watch. Meetings in the steppe aren't like courts or councils from your world. There are no scrolls, no long-winded speeches, no velvet robes. There are maps drawn in ash and bone. There are scouts who report by memory alone. There are decisions made in minutes, quick, brutal, and final. A young man is brought forward, accused of stealing a horse. He denies it. There are no lawyers here, only elders. They ask 2 questions, get 2 conflicting answers, then check the hoof prints in the snow. Their decision is swift. Guilty. He is lashed with a braided leather whip, 20 times across the back, each strike a thud that turns your stomach. He doesn't cry out. If he did, they might add 10 more. Justice here is simple and terrifying. That night, the mood changes. The council gives way to celebration. Meat is roasted on open fires. Drums beat in frenzied rhythms. Men shout drinking songs into the wind. Wrestling matches break out. There's even throat singing. Deep, guttural vibrations that seem to rise from the bones of the earth itself. You sit apart, overwhelmed, until someone presses a bowl into your hands. Air rag again. You don't gag this time. You drink. You eat. You even laugh when a goat escapes the roasting spit and charges through the camp chased by half a dozen drunken warriors. Then, from the central tent, a horn sounds. The celebration halts. Everyone turns. He has arrived. You don't see him at first, only his guards, massive men in fox fur coats, each carrying curved sabers. Then the man himself steps into the firelight. Genghis Khan. Not 10 feet tall, not wrapped in gold, not glowing with supernatural light. Just a man. But what a man. His face is carved from years of dust and battle. His eyes scan the crowd like an archer scanning a battlefield, fast, precise, unyielding. He says nothing at first, just looks. And somehow, without a word, the entire crowd lowers itself to one knee. You do too. When he speaks, his voice is low, but clear. You don't understand the words, but the tone chills you more than the wind could ever. It's the tone of someone who does not beg, does not ask, does not doubt. It's the tone of inevitability. Later, someone whispers a translation into your ear. We ride south soon. Those who are not ready will be left behind. Those who hesitate will be buried. The Mongol world is moving again, and it does not wait for anyone. The days blur into one another after the Khan's arrival. Orders ripple through the camp like thunder. Men sharpen blades, repair saddles, braid rope, count arrows. Herds are moved strategically. Everything is precise, ruthlessly efficient. The air thrums with momentum. You stay to the side, but now everyone sees you differently. You're not just a curious outsider anymore. You're a potential burden in the path of war, and that's dangerous. Still, someone assigns you a job, tending the baggage train. You're shown how to strap supplies onto ox carts, balance tent poles, tie knots that won't shake loose over miles of broken ground. It's not glamorous, but it keeps you moving. And moving means you're not in the way. The army begins its journey at dawn, not in a line, but a massive flowing swarm. Riders, carts, animals, flocks, commanders, smiths, messengers. It's not a column, it's an organism. Every piece shifting in relation to the others, yet moving forward as one. You try to keep pace. Your horse stumbles often. Your hands blister. Your knees feel like someone's pounded them with stones. But you press on. Because falling behind is unthinkable. The Mongols ride fast, but they ride smart. Scouts move far ahead. Invisible shadows who read the land like scripture, watching for signs of ambush, enemy movement, or weather changes. Messengers tear across the plains with quivers at their hips and commands in their heads. No paper, no delays. And every evening, the whole army sets up camp again, as if by instinct. Within an hour, fires burn, meat simmers, weapons are stacked. Guards are posted. 1,000 miles from home, they might as well be in their own backyard. You notice something unsettling. No one ever asks if they'll win the war ahead, only how fast. You try to ask someone about this, a younger rider who's been friendly to you. He looks puzzled at first, then shrugs. "Why would we lose?" he says simply. That answer stays with you. One evening, you're sent ahead with a group moving faster than the rest, an elite vanguard. Not to fight, just to prepare a forward position. The pace is brutal. You eat in the saddle, sleep in snatches, wake sore and half frozen. But when the mountains rise ahead, you feel something stir in your gut. You're seeing the edge of an empire being born, and you're standing in the footprints of fire. Because fire is coming. The Mongols don't just raid, they consume. Entire towns vanish in their wake. Entire cultures shift to survive them, and not all by violence. Some by fear, some by awe, some by the promise of trade and tolerance if obedience is swift and total. You reach a hilltop with the vanguard just before dusk. Below lies a city, walled, tidy, unaware. You expect shouts of war, rallying cries, maybe prayers. But the Mongols are silent, calculating. They don't charge in blind. They build traps, dig trenches, dam rivers, starve their prey. They unleash siege engines stolen from a dozen other cultures. And when the gates fall, they don't just win, they erase resistance itself. That's what you realize here. War, to the Mongols, is not a disruption, it is a system. Later, back at the camp, you're handed a knife, not for war, but for meat. You're invited to sit with warriors around a fire. They offer you fat from the goat's belly, considered a gift. You eat it, grimacing, and they grin. You think it's camaraderie, and in a way, it is. One man pulls out a piece of armor, lamellar, leather scales stitched together. He offers it for you to try on. You do. It fits poorly, too big in the shoulders, too tight in the ribs. It weighs heavily on you, not just physically, but symbolically, like the role that it represents is too large for you to fill. Because it is. You wouldn't last a day on the front lines. They all know it. You're not shamed for it, but you're not protected either. If you ride with them when the storm breaks, you'll need more than borrowed armor. You'll need resolve you haven't yet found, and time you don't have. That night, you try to write something in the dirt, a letter to yourself maybe, a way to hold on to your own world. But the wind erases it before you finish. The land here doesn't remember anything unless it's burned into it. And you're just dust. For now. The assault begins at dawn. Not with a scream, but with a whistle. A high, sharp signal from a scout perched on a distant ridge. And then, like an orchestra following a single baton stroke, the Mongols begin to move. You're told to stay back with the supply train. But curiosity and something else, something you don't want to name, draws you forward. You follow behind a row of mounted archers, heart pounding louder than the horses' hooves. Down below, the city waits, its walls modest, not yet fortified like the cities farther west. The gates are shut. You spot small figures running along the parapets, perhaps praying, perhaps preparing. None of it will matter. The Mongols don't charge blindly. They encircle, they isolate, they unmake. Siege carts rumble forward, cobbled from local wood and old designs borrowed from China and Persia. Fire arrows arc through the sky, their trails like falling stars. The city ignites in places you didn't expect. Roofs, towers, storage barns. Not random, targeted. Smoke pours upward. You hear screaming, but it's distant, muffled by distance, wind, and the hum of adrenaline. You can't stop watching. A young Mongol rider beside you grins. He offers you a horn for drinking. You don't take it. He doesn't insist. Instead, he lifts it to his own lips and downs it in one go. He's barely 16. You want to turn away, to go back to the safety of the wagons, but the horses are blocking your retreat now. The army is a river, and you're caught in the current. So you keep moving forward, step by step, into the unraveling of a world. By midday, the outer wall has fallen, a gap torn open with precision. The archers hold back, infantry pours in, Mongols and conscripted allies, some on foot, some still mounted. What happens next is fast and brutal. No one is spared. You hear stories always of Mongol mercy, of cities that surrendered and were allowed to flourish under protection, of tradesmen spared, clerics left untouched. And it's true, when the surrender is complete and immediate. This city hesitated, and hesitation earns only one sentence: erasure. By sunset, the gates hang askew, blackened and broken. Smoke coils above what's left of the rooftops. Survivors are bound, not gently, and herded together. Craftsmen are separated from the others. Children, too young to be useful, vanish into the confusion. You want to scream, but no one around you looks distressed. Not even the Mongol women who followed the warriors into the ruins to salvage supplies, rescue wounded horses, and, when necessary, finish the job. You meet the gaze of one woman. Her eyes are dry, alert, calm. She walks past you without hesitation, blood splattered on her sleeves. This is normal here. This is history being written. Later that night, when the ashes settle and the soldiers sing over hot broth and mare's milk, you ask someone what will happen to the survivors. He doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he holds up a silver coin taken from the city's vaults, turns it in the firelight. Then he speaks. If they are useful, they live. If they are not, they become memory. You sleep poorly that night. Your dreams are full of gates breaking and horses screaming and children who look like your cousin or your neighbor back home. But when you wake, the Mongols are already breaking camp. They don't linger. Victory is not a place to stay. It's a launch point, a direction, a momentum. You ride in silence. The city smolders behind you, its name already fading from your memory like smoke in the sky. And ahead lies another, a new target, a new wall to crack, a new lesson in the brutal logic of empire. You wonder how they do it, how they carry this weight, this blood. But then you realize they don't carry it, they become it. You ride in a daze for days after the siege, through wind-scoured valleys, over icy rivers, past the charred bones of empty villages. The Mongols move fast, always forward. You stop thinking about destinations. It's all momentum now, one endless, galloping breath. The sky itself seems to change, the light sharper, the cold deeper, the land more cruel. They say winter on the steppe is what separates the dead from the merely unfit, and now it's arrived. You've never felt cold like this. It's not sharp, it's absolute. It lives in your bones, behind your eyes, in your lungs. Your fingers crack despite layers of felt. Your boots freeze solid overnight. The wind doesn't just bite, it peels. There's no shelter that truly helps, only degrees of suffering. And yet, the Mongols thrive. They've been preparing for this since birth, packing animal fat, wrapping wool inside leather, treating their skin with grease. You didn't prepare. How could you? You grew up in houses with heating, in cities with blankets and closed doors. Here, the wind has no doors. It owns you. Your body starts to change, slowly, miserably. You lose weight. Your breath shortens. You start coughing at night. Your lips never fully stop bleeding. You wonder if this is what dying quietly feels like. And the worst part? No one around you slows down. You see children riding bareback in the snow, laughing as they chase each other with sticks. A woman skins a rabbit with bare fingers. An old man rows across a frozen lake in a boat he carved himself. They are built for this world. You are just in it, and survival is not a guarantee. One night, as snow begins to fall again, light, almost beautiful, you find yourself seated beside a small fire with a man you've never spoken to. He has no teeth, but smiles constantly. He offers you a pouch of dried meat, and you take it. It's tough, salty, but better than nothing. He points to your shivering hands, then to your chest. Then he gestures, breathe, deeply, slowly. You realize he's teaching you how not to die of exposure, not through science, not through lectures, just presence, wisdom wrapped in simplicity. You nod, grateful beyond words. This is how you learn here, not in books, but by watching, failing, nearly freezing, then trying again. The next morning, you help butcher a sheep. Your hands are clumsy, but steadier than before. You even manage to scrape the hide without slicing your palm. Small victories, no praise, but the work is its own reward. You're beginning to understand. Here, competence is identity. In your world, people ask what you do. Here, they ask what you can do. And if the answer is nothing, you're simply in the way. The Khan's army is now deeper in foreign territory. The people in these parts speak different dialects, wear longer robes, and grow rice in place of millet. But the Mongols adapt to everything. They eat what's available, ride different breeds of horses, recruit locals who surrender, enslave those who resist. Flexibility is their greatest weapon. Not brute force, adaptation. That's why they win. And slowly, painfully, you try to follow their lead. You watch a Mongol engineer rig a catapult using parts from a broken wagon. You see a herder create a makeshift sling to treat a limping goat. You witness a young girl pull a splinter from her foot, then stitch the wound herself with bone and horsehair. No drama, no panic, just solutions. You realize your modern world, despite all its tools and noise, has insulated you from function. You don't need to know how to sew, slaughter, skin, cook, ride, track, build, hunt, defend, or survive. But here, every person is their own emergency kit. And you? You're still Googling for answers in your head, where the signal's long gone. Later, a group is sent ahead to scout the next settlement. You're not invited, but you're told to keep the fire going for their return. You nod, then realize you've never built a fire from scratch, not without lighters, not in snow. It takes hours, 3 tries, and a split fingernail. But eventually, it catches. It's the smallest flame you've ever seen, but the proudest you've ever felt. You manage to keep your footing long enough to reach the outskirts of the city again, your legs aching and your lungs tight with dust. The urban sprawl gives way to the raw expanse of the steppe. The freedom of open skies tempts you, but don't be fooled. The steppe isn't a gentle refuge. It's the Mongols' training ground, and it's about to become your test of survival. Out here, there's no real shelter. Gur camps, circular felt tents known today as yurts, dot the horizon like mushroom caps. They offer warmth and mobility, but don't expect to be invited in. These nomads are cautious, and the concept of privacy is different. You're seen as an outsider, and to many, outsiders mean threats. You approach a gur cautiously, hoping for food, water, anything. A dog barks, a massive Bankar Mastiff, easily outweighing you. It's not just barking, it's trained to maim. You back away before its owner appears. Eventually, you're lucky enough to be spotted by a caravan, a group of traders moving under Mongol protection. They offer you a place in their ranks as a pack handler, but it's no easy ride. Every morning you rise before the sun to load heavy goods onto camels and oxen, your muscles screaming with every burlap sack of salt or silk. The pace is relentless, 20 to 30 miles per day, no matter the weather. Sandstorms blind you. Rains turn the track into a river of mud. You begin to understand what imperial logistics really means: suffering. Food is boiled mutton every day. Fatty, unseasoned, clinging to your fingers and your breath. If you're lucky, some fermented mare's milk, arog, is shared around. The taste is sharp, sour, like fizzy goat yogurt left too long in the sun. You gulp it anyway. Hydration is hydration. One night, a storm descends. Thunder cracks like the hooves of gods overhead, and you scramble to cover your goods with oiled cloth. One camel bolts. You and another handler are ordered to retrieve it. In the dark, with wolves howling in the distance. You track the beast for hours, feet torn by rocks. Your only light, the flicker of lightning. When you find it, the camel's eyes glow eerily in the storm. It nearly kicks you in the chest before the rope is secured. Somehow, you both make it back, but there is no well done. Just another day. As the weeks drag on, you notice the Mongol scouts slipping in and out of camp like ghosts. These men, no corps, hand-picked warriors loyal to their generals, make you uneasy. They train in silence, practice archery from horseback, hit moving targets while galloping at full speed. They barely look at you, but you feel their presence always. Their loyalty isn't to their families, or even their tribe. It's to their commander, bound by a sacred warrior code. You don't belong. You witness a punishment one day. A merchant caught lying about grain weights. No trial, no argument. The punishment is swift: stripped, beaten, then exiled into the desert with nothing but a knife. The message is clear. Justice here is cold, immediate, and public. Soon, your caravan arrives near one of the Yam stations, the legendary relay posts of the Mongol postal system. Horses snort in the night air. Fresh riders wait, ready to grab the dispatches and gallop across the empire. It's brilliant, like arteries pumping blood across a continent. You marvel at it until a commander calls out. One of the messengers is dead. Illness. You, being a tag-along, are voluntold to ride. You have never galloped before. You've certainly never done it on a half-wild Mongolian pony across unfamiliar terrain in the middle of the night with a bag full of secret documents. But there is no room for no. You mount. The pony takes off like a fired arrow. Your thighs burn. You cling to the horn of the saddle, its stiff wooden frame bruising your tailbone. The wind cuts like knives. Your lips crack. You start hallucinating from fatigue. At one point, you swear the moon is chasing you. Your only reprieve is the next station. You swap horses and ride again. When the last station comes into view, you collapse before even reaching the stables. Someone else retrieves the satchel from your limp fingers. You've done it. You've survived. Barely. And only because others had to die first. But you're not celebrated. No medals, no feast. You're told to recover quickly because the army needs another supply assistant. You're nothing more than a replaceable piece of a massive war engine. And when you finally come close to Genghis Khan's main encampment, you see it. Rows of banners snapping in the wind, tents arranged with military precision, guards stationed every 10 paces. This is no primitive mob. This is a machine. The smell of tanned leather, blood, steel, and fire hangs in the air like a curtain. Here, even generals sleep with one eye open. Espionage, assassination, betrayal. Those are just tools of state. You begin to understand the heart of the empire. Not just the tactics and the terror, but the crushing discipline. Loyalty is enforced. Cowardice punished. Suffering expected. You don't belong here. You know it in your bones. But you also know leaving might be even harder. There is no going back. Not to the caravan, not to the distant city, not to the comfort of anonymity. You've been dragged too deep into the machine. The moment you delivered that satchel of intelligence, unwittingly contributing to the next conquest, you became entangled in the Empire's arteries. You're seen now. You're known. And the Khan's empire doesn't let go of what it sees. They assign you to a logistics encampment, a place where weapons are forged, rations stored, carts repaired, and siege engines prepared. You were hoping for something easier, but Mongol logistics are famously brutal. Their expectations impossibly high. Every item has a place. Every soldier has an exact allotment of arrows, armor, jerky, and dried curds. You mess it up, you die. Maybe not immediately, but you'll be exiled, left behind during the next march, which in this world is a death sentence. They don't fight like the stories say. You imagined wild charges and shouting warriors. Instead, what you see is frightening precision. The army moves like a single organism. Scouts chart rivers and terrain weeks ahead. Signal fires and arrows marked communication. Every attack is rehearsed. Feints, ambushes, retreats, all designed for maximum panic. You meet a Mongol commander, a Noyan, who speaks multiple languages and asks if you can write. You hesitate, admit that you can a little. He stares at you, unimpressed but interested. You are now a scribe, a terrible one. You fumble with the brush and ink. Your script is weak. He corrects you once, then twice. Then he raises an eyebrow. Improve, he says, or carry dung. You improve. Soon you're writing supply requests, missives, and war reports. You transcribe stories, oaths, and threats to enemy cities. One day you help copy a chilling letter meant for the Sultan of Khwarezm. It begins with diplomatic greetings and ends with a promise of fire and blood. Another day you're ordered to draw a map, a real one. You try to recall the paths you've seen, rivers, forests, stone bridges. You realize to your horror that Mongols collect not only cities, but geographies. Their war planners memorize the shape of nations. Then come the prisoners. A massive chain of them arrives from a conquered city to the west. You are assigned to the interrogation tent, not as an interrogator, but a translator's assistant. Many of the prisoners are craftsmen, some scholars. They are not tortured, not yet. First, their knowledge is mined. Where are the canals? Where are the salt mines? What symbols do the priests use? What stories do the people believe? You begin to understand why the Mongol conquests leave such ruin. Not because the Mongols love destruction, but because they extract everything first. Ideas, techniques, secrets. Only then do they erase what remains. Knowledge is power, and the Khan wants it all. One night your tent is invaded, not by soldiers, but by silence. It's a ritual. Warriors gather around a fireless circle. They tell tales of death. Not heroics, not glory. Death. They pass a carved bone around, and whoever holds it speaks of the closest he came to dying. You understand nothing of the words, but the tone chills you. These men are not fearless. They are intimate with fear, trained to master it. A boy, not older than 16, speaks last. He holds the bone like it weighs 100 pounds. His tale is short. On his first campaign, he saw a man cut in half by a mangonel stone. The boy tried to run. His general caught him, gave him a choice: go back into battle or face death immediately. He returned to the battle, killed 3 men, hasn't cried since. Everyone nods. You sleep poorly that night. The next morning, a proclamation arrives. The Khan calls for an arak, a formal council. You are permitted to attend the fringes. Thousands gather: tribal chiefs, generals, merchants, shamans. The Khan doesn't shout. He speaks calmly, with pause. Every word carries weight. He speaks of order, of the eternal blue sky, of destiny. He reminds the people that disorder leads to weakness, and that only by conquering chaos can they secure peace. You don't know if it's terrifying or brilliant. A rider appears at the edge of camp, dusty, blood-smeared, nearly unconscious. He brings news of resistance in a northern province. The Khan listens, nods once, then issues orders. 3 tumens, 30,000 troops are to ride immediately. You are assigned to follow, not because you're useful, but because you know too much. You've seen the maps, heard the tactics, copied the letters. You are not trusted to wander away. The next march breaks you. You ride until your legs are useless. Sleep on the ground. Drink from streams full of frog spawn. You see a woman give birth mid-march. She doesn't stop. Just moves into a curtained cart, then returns to riding with her newborn strapped to her chest. Mongol resilience isn't just real, it's expected. You reach the enemy city. Its walls are high, its people determined. The siege begins. You are not a soldier, but every hand is needed. You carry stones, shovel dirt, load catapults. The screaming begins on the 3rd day. Flaming tar launched over the walls. Screams of men burning. The Mongols do not flinch. They breach on the 5th day. You are pushed forward. You do not want to enter the city. You do not want to see what they do. But you are forced in. The stench of blood is overwhelming. You try not to look, but you cannot stop hearing. Later that night, after the city has fallen silent, you sit near a tent, your hands shaking. A general offers you dried meat. You can't eat. He studies you. You don't understand, he says softly. We do this so no one dares resist again. A world where no one defies us is a world with fewer dead. You look at him. He believes it. You want to scream, but what comes out is nothing. Because in the Mongol Empire, your voice doesn't matter. You wake the next morning with the city still smoldering. Smoke clings to your clothes. The once grand gates now lie broken, splintered and coated in ash. Mongol banners flutter atop the towers where enemy archers once stood. Inside the ruins, the survivors are rounded up. Not many remain. And then, order. The chaos has ended, and immediately the rebuilding begins. Mongol engineers mark the streets. Craftsmen taken as prisoners are sorted. Blacksmiths, masons, scribes, all claimed for imperial service. The rest are loaded onto wagons. Some are resettled deep in the Mongol heartland. Others vanish. You don't ask. A census is taken, not of people, of loot, gold, bolts of silk, books, horses, ivory. Everything is counted, tabulated, taxed. The Mongols are not just conquerors, they're accountants of destruction. You are summoned by a scribe who remembers your handwriting. You're reassigned to documentation duties again, this time inside what used to be a palace. Now it's a war office. You copy more letters, some to Mongol nobles, others to foreign kings. Threats wrapped in diplomacy, demands veiled in politeness. Always the words are precise, cold, confident. The empire speaks softly, but always with a blade behind the curtain. One letter catches your eye. It orders the construction of a qanat, an underground water system in a far province. The knowledge to build it came from Persian engineers captured 3 conquests ago. You realize now, the Mongols don't just steal riches, they steal infrastructure, expertise, entire cultures, and then bend them into the machinery of empire. You begin to understand why the Mongol Empire expands like wildfire, not just because of fear or horses or genius generals, but because every conquest makes the empire smarter, stronger, faster. It's not just brutality, it's evolution through conquest. But you are not evolving. You are breaking. The days blur. You forget how many cities you've passed through, how many languages you've heard screamed in panic, how many people you've watched being herded, shackled, executed. Your stomach turns at every smell. Your dreams are full of hooves and fire. And then, one day, you're brought to the Khan himself. Not Genghis, he's long gone now, but one of his descendants, a grandson, perhaps Möngke, perhaps Kublai. You're not told which. You are merely a functionary in a long line of faces, summoned to read aloud a translated letter from a distant pope. You read, slowly, carefully. The Khan listens without expression. When you finish, he dismisses you with a wave. Not a word, not a glance. That's when it hits you. You are invisible. Not hated, not loved, not even feared. Just a cog. You could vanish tonight and no one would notice. Your name never mattered. Your identity dissolved the moment you entered the Empire's bloodstream. And the most terrifying part? The machine would keep moving, flawlessly, without you. You think about escaping. Of course you do. But there's no place to go. You're deep in the heart of the Mongol world. Beyond the mountains lies only more Mongol territory, more garrisons, more patrols, more people who won't question why you're running. If they see you alone, far from your unit, they'll assume you're a deserter, and deserters don't get second chances. You entertain fantasies. Maybe you'll blend into a conquered city, pose as a potter or a monk or a mute. But how long before a census officer finds you? Before you're questioned, branded, used? Because in the Mongol Empire, everything has a use. Even you. And so you stay. You do your work. You ride. You write. You nod when told. You kneel when required. The days stretch. The years blur. Until one evening, as you watch a new city burn on the horizon, you realize you've forgotten what your own language sounds like. You've forgotten your family's names. You've forgotten what peace felt like. And in that moment, it becomes clear. You didn't survive the Mongol Empire. You were absorbed by it. Just like everyone else. Just like everything else.